This is TV Ontario, Channel 19 in Toronto, Channel 18 in London.
What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1376 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success. Season 5 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast for Moneris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making her Toronto Mic debut, is Mary Hynes. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here.
And I'm going to get you like a titch closer to the mic here. Okay, I won't smash your face.
Yeah. Do you need to crank me up a little bit?
No, you sound great. Those pipes, I know those pipes. I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness. What a pleasure it is to meet you.
I'm delighted to be here. The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce you to my co-host. Steve Paikin is in the house.
God.
How are you, Steve?
All the better for being with you, Mike.
Oh, do you say that to all the podcast hosts that you hang with?
I think you're the only one I hang with.
Is that right? Yeah. I'm going to Google that and make sure that's true because I've heard stories. Okay, so Steve, we got a little catching up to do. There's been a lot since you were last here, but you were last here when you brought John Michael McGrath into my basement.
Right, that's right. When was that? Was that
well, the strike
September,
was in its
October?
early, I don't know, how long did that strike go?
11 weeks.
11 weeks. Yeah. I feel like you were 5 weeks deep into that strike.
Okay.
And by the way, congrats on getting back to work.
Yeah, I'm glad it's over. You ever been on strike, Mike?
No. I've never been like part of anything that could strike. I guess no union involved.
That's the way to do it.
Mary, have you been on strike?
I've been locked out.
You've been locked out.
There was a CBC lockout. When was that? 2006, 2008. Which is brutal in slightly different ways and not fun.
No, but Steve, you guys went on strike and it got resolved. What kind of deal did you strike? You want to give us the details? Are you happy with how things were resolved?
I'm happy it's over. Let's put it that way. I don't think, it's like any workplace dispute. I think, everybody had to put a little water in their wine, and we finally got to the finish line, and good. Let's get back to work.
So you brought me John Michael McGrath, and I loved meeting him. That was a wonderful experience. We snuck in like an episode of your Agenda podcast. What's that podcast you have called?
The On Poly podcast, named after the hashtag for Ontario politics.
Of course.
X. And yeah, we did a little, I wouldn't say we did an episode with you here.
Of course not. That would violate all these rules.
Yeah,
we just talked about the subject. We had a chat, which I think
But we're back in business. McGrath and I are back in business. We've had 2 episodes drop since the strike ended. Is that the technical term you use in podcasting?
Yeah, that's what I say.
Dropped?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we're back in business with that, and we're back writing columns, and the TV show may take a little longer to get back in business.
But this time you brought me Mary Hynes. This is very exciting to me, Mary. I hear your voice. I heard it on the weekend.
Get out. Are you listening?
I'm a CBC Radio 1 guy, and I hear Tapestry, and I hear your voice. And when I met you in the driveway, and again, this is like the second time where I come home from a bike ride, and my guest was waiting for me, and I'm actually sitting here nervous, because the first time that happened was Molly Johnson. So this is the second time, so I'm just hoping things go better this time.
That didn't go well, as I recall.
No, it didn't go well, but so far so good.
How could it not have gone well? You've got you've got Molly Johnson.
You'll have to listen, Mary, okay? Mary, this is your homework, okay?
Okay.
You're going to listen to Molly Johnson on
This is harder than I thought.
You're going to get back to me here. But Mary, I pulled a song because we're going to get to know you better. And then, Steve, as you can imagine, I have more questions for you. So
are you going to tell people that Mary and I actually worked together 29 years ago, or do they have to wait?
This is your job. Okay. So how do you know Mary, Steve?
Oh, thanks for asking, Mike. Well,
Smooth.
Mary and I used to do a show at TVO 29 years ago.
27? 27.
Get it right, Steve.
No. Hang on a sec. Well, because I started at TVO 31 years ago, and the first 2 years I did Between the Lines and Fourth Reading, and then 2 years into my time there, you came along. 1994 is when it started.
So you know what?
Okay.
I'm thinking of the end.
You're thinking,
Right. No.
which you were doing from the beginning.
Do you edit this heavily? Oh,
That's not going to happen.
No.
This isn't Tapestry.
No, you're absolutely right. Because and I was thinking we should plan something for the 30th, which is coming up.
That's right.
Because we were in 1994.
September 1994, we went on the air. So
Wow.
next September of 2024, you're right.
Yeah.
We're going to plan something.
I was thinking 27 because I was 9 months pregnant when we wrapped.
Yes.
So that's always on my mind when I think of Studio
And
2.
what is that baby doing now?
That baby is a historian in training. She is.
You can do better than that. That baby is a PhD student at Yale University.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
How about that?
Mary's bearing the lead here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Here's why that apple fell so far from the tree. It's in a different orchard. I did not get any kind of higher education.
Now, Steve, my plan was to talk about Mary pre-TVO. And then when we get her to TVO, get all those details about working with you, what that was like, what you guys did together,
Okay. So I'll
Studio
pass
2.
this back over to my co-host.
But you can
Mike
interject.
Boone.
Like, I don't want I don't want you to hesitate. If you have a thought of something you want to, ask Mary about, like, you are my co-host here, and don't worry about trampling all over me because
we had met before.
Well,
Studio
okay.
2.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
So let's start though. Obviously, I want to talk about the Globe and Mail, but Mary,
he's good.
Mary, of course, I want to talk about the Globe and
good.
Mail. Come on,
Man.
Oh, on that note, maybe before we dive into the ongoing history of Mary Hynes, a moment here, because I just said the Globe and Mail, and there's a gentleman named Norris MacDonald.
Oh,
Do you know the name
yes.
Norris MacDonald,
I
Mary?
absolutely do. The fabulous motorsports guy from the Toronto Star for so many years.
So what I'd like to do is, we're now, what is this, late November. Last December, there was a Toronto Mike listener experience at Palma's Kitchen in Mississauga. Steve, you weren't there. You're going to come out to this one? It's on December 9th.
I went to the Great Lakes Brewery one.
You were at the last one,
Yeah.
and that was amazing. You had the summit with Mark Weisblatt.
I did.
You going to tell us what you talked about?
Nope. Between the two of us.
That's what everybody wants to know. Mary just wants to know who Mark Weisblatt is. Okay.
No, I just want an invitation to the next Great Lakes Brewery event.
Well, that is, trust me, you're going to get one. But I will just, before I talk
Watch
about
out what you wish for. man.
we are going to collect again on December 9th. Steve, you should come. You know why? Stephen Brunt and Tom Wilson are coming out to TMLX 14 on
And if
December 9th.
I showed up, you'd have three Hamiltonians
Well, this is
there.
why I'm saying it, because you're a proud Hamiltonian.
And you know what? Tom Wilson and I,
Yeah?
same birthday.
But not the same year, because
No.
he's got 10 years on you.
No, he's got 1 year on me.
Is that
He's
right?
got 1 year on me. Yeah, the year before.
Okay, well, Tom Wilson and Stephen Brunt. I was at a concert in Hamilton on the weekend. I saw Skydiggers, and then I'm in the front left, the corner, and then the opposite corner, the back right, Tom Wilson's there. So afterwards, I'm chatting up Tom Wilson, and then a nice woman comes up to me and goes, "You're Toronto Mike," and I go, "Yes, how are you?" And then she starts telling me, "My husband is Stephen Brunt." So Stephen
That was
Brunt.
Jeannie.
Yes, I guess so, unless he has more than one wife. So I don't know. I don't ask these questions. But bottom line is,
Mary and I both know Jeannie.
so she was at the Skydiggers concert. Stephen wasn't there. He had to dog sit or something like that. But the bottom line is, this is a long-winded way of saying that Tom Wilson and Stephen Brunt will be at TMLX 14 on December 9th from noon to 3 at Palma's Kitchen. We'll get Palma pasta and we'll get Great Lakes beer. You should both come.
Oh,
And if I were not on a flight to Florida that very day with my dad, I
What
would
an
come.
excuse. Okay, that is a good excuse.
That's a good
Okay.
excuse.
that's
So now to
nice.
get serious from, not that we're not serious about that, that's important too, but the last TMLX event at Palma's Kitchen was in December 2022. And Perry Lefko, who's an FOTM, much like you two,
man,
you know the name Perry Lefko?
he was a friend of my husband's, Randy Starkman.
Two sports reporters.
I don't know Perry, but I've heard the name a million times. Thanks to Rand.
Wow. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of this. And in fact, we could probably do a whole episode about your husband there. But so Perry Lefko, whose brother is Elliot Lefko, who's like a famous concert promoter in this city. He's in the new Lowest of the Low documentary. We'll close his episode of Lowest of the Low. But TMLX 11, yes, at Palma's Kitchen last December, Perry brings his mentor, Norris MacDonald. So I'm going to play a clip of that. Norris, how are you doing, sir? How you doing?
I'm doing fine. And listen, congratulations. Great show. And a pleasure to be here today.
Did he have to twist your arm to get you here?
Not really.
You just heard there was free food.
Not really.
That always does it.
That's Perry.
He said, "Come, we'll have sandwiches and we'll."
Yeah. What did you eat, by the way? What did you get?
As a matter of fact, I got a drink.
Well, you're missing out, buddy. There's some nourishment down there. You get.
However, I'm delighted because I'm Dave Heppel. I've been listening and watching him for years.
Oh, Mike Heppel?
Mike Heppel. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's great because Dave Schultz and Mike Heppel merge and they become like a transformer. Dave Heppel.
And I worked with Dave Schultz.
Okay, at the Globe.
Globe and Mail. You know.
He was there forever. When they said, "Okay, guys, we're gonna have involuntary buyouts," he leapt 6 feet in the air. He had never been had such energy. He was very excited.
Since you were the editor of Wheels, is that what it was? The editor of the.
Wow.
What's your favorite car? What is your
personal favorite?
Yes, if you could have any car right now, what would
Chevrolet
it be?
Corvette.
What year?
Oh, but there's a new one just out, and so consequently we're looking at 2022.
Oh, really?
With 2023, yeah.
Gotcha.
Everybody says Lamborghini and Ferrari and all the rest of it. Give me good North American iron and, you know.
And color. Do you have a favorite color?
Red.
Yeah, it's got to be red, right?
By the way, Toronto Star writer Ben Rayner just walked in right now. And for a minute, I thought Ed Vedder was here. Just for a minute. Norris, thank you for being here, buddy. You're now an FOTM. You're a friend of Toronto Mike.
Well, thank you very much. And I hate to say it, I've been dominating this.
No. We've never heard from you before, and I've heard way too much Lefko. Lefko.
I'm always happy to put over Norris. As they say in wrestling, great guy.
Thank you, Perry Lefko, man. You're a good FOTM. Love it. And thank you for bringing Norris, great Toronto Star writer. I love your sweater, buddy.
I was going to say, I always take the opportunity to plug the product.
Love it. Thank you guys so much. Norris, that's amazing to hear from you. And Perry, stick around afterwards. We'll chat, man. But you're a sweetheart. You're
Ciao.
a sweetheart.
All right, thanks, man.
Ciao, Bella. All right, Norris MacDonald. That was him last December at TMLX 11. I got the very sad news yesterday morning. Norris passed away at the age of 82.
Oh, no, I didn't know
And I've been getting notes. So I wrote about it yesterday morning. And then I've been getting notes from people who, like, he mentored me at, the paper. He was one of those old school newspaper editors, and everybody loved Norris MacDonald. And I had that brief encounter with him just last December. Anyway, sad news. 82 years old. And then what I did, I phoned Perry Lefko, who considered Norris a mentor, and we had a chat that I recorded for the Ridley Funeral Home Memorial episode I'll drop at the end of the month. It's almost the end of the month now. So in a few days, I'll drop this episode, and we'll hear Perry and I talking about the legend that was Norris MacDonald.
Norris was a mentor to my nephew, Bryce Turner. Yep. I mean, was just so kind and so generous, with young people starting up in the business, especially kids with that motorsports love, because that's a real niche.
Right. Right. So there is some sad news there, but I just wanted to pay tribute to Norris. And I thought you guys might have a connection because it's such a small world, right? This Canadian media landscape, it's so small. Everything connects.
Especially the sports end of it.
So tell me, when did you, Mary, realize you wanted to be a journalist? Like, I want to get you to the Globe, but what kind of sparked that passion?
I think it was just a love of copy editing. I just love to take kind of a crappy piece of writing and make it a little better, whether it's mine or somebody else's.
So you enjoyed working with Steve Paikin, that means. Too easy. I'm almost ashamed I did that. I'm sorry, Steve.
Oh, no. But, yeah. No, still, I haven't seen a lot of your writing. I've seen a lot of your other talents on display, but
we co-hosted, so I didn't write things that would have been.
Okay, let's get you to TVO, Mary. This is my goal now. I got to get you to TVO. No, we're not going to skip a thing. We're not
working in that sports department.
We're not skipping anything.
All right.
Dave Schultz. The reason that I mentioned Dave Schultz, some context, is that Dave was the guy on the mic just before Norris and Perry. So Dave Schultz had just come on the mic to talk about how much he's loving retirement. He's still loving retirement. He's a very happily retirement. Retirement is a word we'll use soon, Mary. Hang in there. Okay.
Not soon enough.
So, wow. We're getting there. Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
So back to Mary Hynes. This is your Toronto Mike debut. I need all the details.
Okay. So is this the
just tell me
first
about
stirrings of journalism? Well, I remember landing at the we were all graduating into the big recession of 1982. So I remember thinking I'm never even going to get a summer job in this business, much less be able to make a living from it. And sure enough, was lucky enough to land at that Globe and Mail summer internship program, and they fired us all in July. Wow. Interns! Who lets interns go? Because it was a cost-cutting measure, and we were making, I think $1.50 a week or something. I don't remember the exact sum.
But it was probably close to minimum wage.
It would have been.
Okay, so whatever minimum wage was.
I don't think we were making minimum wage. Okay. And they let all the interns go in July.
Wow.
And it felt like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, I'm doomed. Like I'm never going to. And I remember a cousin of mine whom I adore, but very cutting sense of humor. And he said, Mary, the closest you're ever going to get to journalism is a paper route.
Which is a great line.
Yeah, I love it. I've stolen it. But things, you cobble things together over the years, and things, I don't know, sometimes things work out, and that's what it's felt like.
Okay, so how do you, did you love sports from the get-go? Like you're a sports reporter from the Globe and Mail.
Yeah, I loved sports from the get-go, but Randy brought me into sports journalism because we had met at United Press Canada, which was the Canadian arm of UPI, the wire service. He was the sports guy. I was on the radio wire. And we were applying for a job. It was a freelance job covering sports overseas. And we were applying for it together, but I'd never worked in sports, despite being a sports fanatic. I used to read religiously. Do you remember Sport magazine? It was the competitor to Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
I thought it was better. And I just had, I just had these kind of manic, passionate fan experiences, some of them driven by Sport magazine. So I was a real fan. But I remember Randy and I ended up getting this job. I remember sitting on a curb on a sidewalk in Berlin, literally in tears, because we had just covered Gaetan Boucher at a speed skating event.
Right.
We had the result sheet, and I didn't know what to do with it. I thought, I don't know how to turn this into sports journalism. I had kind of psyched myself out and thought, okay, Rand knows how to do this. I don't know how to be a sports reporter. And I look back now and I think, oh, honey, that was the most formulaic kind of writing you could have been asked to do. It wasn't that hard, but I'd built it up into, okay, he's the sports guy. I don't know how to do this. What am I supposed to do? I know I've got his time here. I have his result. I don't know how to make this into the thing it's supposed to be.
You figured it out, Mayor.
At some point, I guess.
You figured it out.
You fake it till you make it.
I wish I had known that then. Yeah. I know that now.
You know that now. I know we started by a little sad note. We're actually, that was quite an episode of Toronto Mike. I realized we're going to close on a sad note. We opened on a sad note, but I mean,
why are we here? We're just been crying all afternoon.
And your husband, I'm so sorry for your loss, because I grew up as a Toronto Star household. This was and I went straight to the sports section, and I had to search. I knew Randy had passed away far too young, but when you're young and you see that number, it seems further away, because I can reach out and touch that number, and my goodness gracious, Randy Starkman gone at 51 years.
It's not okay. Nothing about this is
I'm
okay.
So sorry. Mary, that's awful.
And even now, we just passed 11 years last April of having lost him, and even now, nothing about it is okay. And it's not some really, and this may be of use to you, dear, as you navigate some losses at the moment. the best bit of guidance I heard was, okay, it's not linear. It's going to be really cyclical. At one point, you're going to be feeling, okay, it's fine. I'm not over it, but I'm functioning and I'm fine. And then a couple of weeks later, you are going to be like just in the depths of it to a degree that you just can't see daylight again. So it's more like a spiral than a linear thing. You don't reach a point where, okay, I'm far enough removed from this event that it's fine. Yeah, nothing about it is okay.
You know, Mike,
he's my roovie. He's always going to be my roovie. Here's his. I'm wearing both wedding rings, his and mine.
Beautiful,
You know,
beautiful. Mary doesn't like to brag about her daughter, but her daughter is extraordinary. And your daughter was how old when your husband died?
15.
15. She gave the most extraordinary eulogy at Randy's funeral.
Wow.
And it was what was amazing about it was that the kid at age 15 got up there and was alternatively funny, thoughtful, heartfelt, emotional. I mean, she touched every base.
Thank
and
you.
no, it was extraordinary. I mean, 11 years later, I remember it like it was yesterday.
So what nobody knows is the night before I said, sweetie, please don't do this. You have no idea how hard it's going to be to get up in front of, what turned out to be 1,000+ people.
Yeah.
And I knew the depth of the loss for her. And I said, please, you don't need to do this. And in fact, I hope you won't do it because it's going to be impossible. And she shut that shit down.
Good for her.
She's always been very, very strong-willed in a really cool way. And she said, I'm doing it for Papa. And it was like end of discussion.
Brilliant.
And you're right. She got up there.
She nailed it, Mare.
They ran clips on As It Happens. They had Marnie McBean on talking about it. And Marnie McBean, they didn't run, there was no recording there, but they ran Marnie McBean talking about this eulogy. And Ella at one point talked about how she had to grow up. Randy would read to her just incessantly every night before bed, at times during the day. She said, because I had to grow up without television. Hippie parents. Like just rolling her eyes right up. I mean, she just, it was remarkable to me to see it because it was such a beautiful tribute. Because Rand would have loved it. He loved what he once won Christmas. I have this. Boy, this is a detour. I'm sorry, guys.
No, this is Toronto, Mike. Literally, this is what we do. This is what we do. We'll come back.
I love being in this space you've created. I have a picture. This was a Christmas present for me one year. It's 5 little pictures of Ella, toddler, little older, little older, little older. And the body beneath each head is a different kind of hammer. Like a ball peen hammer, a different kind of, and the whole thing is situated. Randy, he created this, and everything is situated in a paper bag. And the headline of it is "Our Little Bag of Hammers." She hates this.
Wow.
She hates this. But he loved how I don't want to say random. She's been a real character since she was tiny.
Personality.
So much personality.
Yep.
An excess of personality, perhaps. And Rand was in many ways the same way. We joke about her being quite a clone of his. So I think he just would have delighted in the fact that she was making people cry, but man, first she was going to make them laugh.
And she did.
Yeah.
She did.
It was beautiful. Thank you for remembering that.
It was brilliant. It was absolutely.
Man.
Never mind, brilliant. Of course, daughters can eulogize their fathers and do a good job of it. But at 15, to be that good and that poised at 15 was extraordinary.
You know what, though? And this also... this also touches on that ability of hers, but it also touches on... just how I want to wring her neck sometimes. Randy was at the Commonwealth Games I think it was Commonwealth Games in New Delhi, and he had won the Sports Writer of the Year award. And we went to the banquet, and Ella was accepting the award on his behalf. So we're at a table with, Fred Walker and Brian Williams. Marcelo Bou is there. He was still connected with the Quebec Nordique, and she gets up, and it's the same kid you saw eulogize Randy at his funeral. She's speaking beautifully. My dad can't be here. He's at the Commonwealth Games, and she's going on and on and on. She comes back to the table, and Brian Williams and Fred Walker, two of the greats in broadcasting, both say to her, there's Brian Williams saying, "Young lady, I could certainly never have done that when I was your age." And gracious Fred is saying, "Ella, That was beautifully done. And she turns to me and she's mad as hell. She's saying, do they think I'm an idiot? Like, why is everybody so surprised that I can get up there and talk? And then Marcel, making matters worse, I'm so proud. Marcelo Bu comes over. He says, young lady, I'm here for your papa, and I wish he were here, and I want you to come work for me someday. And then, of course, she turns around to me, does he think I'm an idiot too? It's like, well, like, why are all these, to her, elderly men so surprised that she is speaking with some degree of confidence and self-possession? And I was saying, sweetie,
they're fairly rare characteristics in kids your age.
And also, you don't know these individuals. Can I just tell you, you've just received a beautiful set of compliments. Can you just shut up and take the compliment?
Take the compliment.
Yeah. Like, just be gracious for a minute. You don't have to receive everything as an insult, maybe.
Well, Mary, I'm glad we can talk a little about Randy Starkman here, only because, if Randy were still with us, without a doubt, he would have been on Toronto Mic'd already. I mean,
I love
without
that.
a doubt. Dave Perkins has been over many times.
Oh, I love Perky.
Damien Cox comes over all the time. He's coming over again. Kevin McGran's been over. The Toronto Star Sports Department.
It was epic.
It absolutely. And I'm thinking, during the Ben Johnson scandal and everything, and your husband's work on that file, unbelievable.
Okay, can I just say
anything?
I beat him to that punch.
All right, let's say it with more detail.
I mean, he had the worldwide exclusive of when Ben tested positive again the couple of years later after the suspension. But at the Seoul Olympics in 1988, this was awful. We were competitors. He was working at the Star. I was working at the Globe. And that was nearly the end of us, I want to say. We were as solid as it is possible to be, I think, on the romance front. And if you take two really conscientious, dogged reporters and put them at competing sections of a newspaper, especially when those sections are they're both really vigorous and strong, but always vaguely under threat. And so the competition is really heated. We could not have stayed, him at the Star, me at the Globe, and continued to thrive. Like we were pretty open about this. Anyway, Seoul Olympics, Ben is the toast of the world. I'm in a payphone booth phoning the desk. It's about midnight. I've just come from a basketball game, a Team Canada basketball game, I think. And I'm speaking to my sports editor, and Gianni Merlo, who is like the dean of the World Press Corps, comes by Corriere della Stampa in Italy, and he comes by the phone booth, and he was really plugged in with NBC television, and NBC television got the leak. And he leans over to me, and we knew Gianni very well because we all covered the World Cup ski circuit together, and he called us Valentina and Valentino because we were together. He leans into the phone booth, Valentina, you have heard? I said, what? Ben Johnson, positive dope test. I said, get out. And so it was not, no whisper of that was public yet. And Gianni Merlo was privy to it because of his NBC connection. And the Globe still had the Bulldog edition. So I was able to say to my sports editor on the phone, wow, okay, I've just been told from a really reliable source, Ben Johnson has failed his drug test. And things moved on from there at the Globe. And Randy was really pissed off because the Globe edition was going to hit the streets a couple of hours before the Stars edition. But of course, we couldn't have gone just on the strength of Gianni Merlo tells me. So we all had to wait for confirmation, which was still a few hours away. But yeah, no, we were always so competitive when we were working against one another, and 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. I think that's a painful way to be in love with a competitor.
That's quite the story, though, Mary, about getting the tip. You can't publish it, I guess. You need to corroborate that, and you guys have your journalism awards. That's what makes you such a good journalist. But that's kind of amazing to hear how you got wind of that story, and you had it first in Canada.
Well, I mean, It would have been hours later that it went to press, but it was very cool to be able to be on the phone with a sports editor and say, and he's hearing it from me. You know, he's not seeing it on the wire. He's not even seeing it on the international wires. Yeah. That's way too boastful. We need to cut this out. No, I've never said that out loud. Like, that's not okay.
Oh, lean in. Come on, Mary. Lean in. Speaking of Mary's, quickly, I shout out a couple of other longtime Toronto Star sports scribes who have been here on Toronto Mike. Mary Ormsby and Paul Hunter.
Oh.
So they came on together. So
Sweet.
Another husband-wife team.
Another husband-wife team.
But at the same paper, I hasten to add.
Yes, makes a difference, eh?
It makes a huge difference. Not sustainable, I think. Unless, maybe if you're not competitive as a reporter, maybe if you don't have that instinct, and maybe if you're...
Or different sections, maybe that might make a difference.
Different sections would be fine.
Yeah.
And I think Randy and I both had a certain insecurity about the work. It didn't matter how long we had done it. We felt like we were continually having to prove ourselves.
It's a good way to be.
It is, and it's exhausting.
Yes.
And so I think even if just one of us had been laid back about work and thought, yeah, it's good enough, I'm good enough, I'll mail it in, that might have been sustainable. But two people who are always, I must say, particularly the Star Sports Department didn't help in this regard, because it was very much a "what have you done for us lately" place. I'm not sure the Globe was much like. That's the nature of daily sports journalism, though, right? Like it is "what have you done for us lately."
Well, I'm wondering if you could name. I mean, we just heard the name David Schultz earlier, but can you name check anybody else that you worked with in the Globe and Mail Sports Department?
Oh, yes, Stephen Brunt was there when I was there.
Is that such a small world, Steve? Like, we just Stephen Brunt's wife bumps into me at a Skydiggers show.
Bill Houston, would he have been there?
Bill Houston would have been there. Yep, Bill Houston was there.
Okay. Don't get me started on Bill Houston. I think he lost his marbles at some point, but shout out to Bill Houston. Okay. So.
Call your lawyer, Mike. You're about to get
Lauren
sued.
Honickman listening right now.
Jim Christie was there doing all the amateur sports stuff. It was a fabulous department. And I just, because, news of my next phase has started to trickle out, I just got an email from my first sports editor at the Globe, Murray Campbell.
Oh my gosh. I just saw him the other day.
Did you really?
Yeah, bumped into him with something the other day.
Did you ever work with Gare Joyce at the Globe and Mail?
Oh, you know what? I didn't at the Globe, but Gare and I did briefly a sports panel together for the local afternoon show at CBC Radio. We were two panelists, and we might have been the only two, I think. And that's when our paths crossed, because he was such a beautiful writer. I remember he was doing a lot of magazine stuff.
Yes, he's Brunt-esque in his writing.
He was wonderful, yeah. So that's how I know Gare, because we were doing the sports guy thing.
You want to talk about Marty York?
Yes, can we talk about Marty York, who is an FOTM as well? He's been here.
I was wondering how he is, because I've completely lost track
He's good.
of him.
He's doing work with, I hope I say this correctly, Stephen Paikin, B'nai B'rith?
B'nai B'rith.
Okay, see, I did butcher it. There's B'nai B'rith. Okay, so he does work with them.
I should have let you. You're the legit guy here. I turned
to Paikin on that one, Mary.
She's copy editing again. There we go.
But hey, I was close, right? That was close.
You were very close.
I only ever see it written. I never hear it said. So it's like I'm trying to guess on the fly how you say it. But he works with them, and I think he's doing all right. He makes a ruckus on Twitter about how much he hates Rogers and the Blow Jays, as he calls them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he's tough on them. Tough on the local sports scene.
They can go, I don't know, they can win 162 games next season, and he'll tell you they're overrated. That's true.
Do you know, one of my favorite lines ever had a Marty York component to it. It was Alan Abel, remember the sports columnist at the Globe? And he was covering something from China, and the initials were the CFL, and his lead was 3,000 miles away from Marty York, there's a scandal in the CFL. And you never name check your colleagues in the newspaper, right? But everybody got it, and it was classic.
Oh my God, the Marty York stories are classic. Okay, now, why do you end up at TVO helping to launch Studio 2? Like, what happens at the Globe and Mail that causes you to leave the Globe and Mail?
So at the Globe and Mail, I get a call from CBC Radio, and the epic Mark Lee is leaving the Inside Track, and they want to know if I'd be interested in hosting the Inside Track. And that's a lovely kind of phone call to get. But at the time I was covering the Dublin inquiry for the Globe, which was the judicial inquiry stemming from Ben Johnson's positive drug test. And
another Hamiltonian. Charlie Dubbin.
Charlie
Okay.
Dubbin.
Yeah.
You know, we asked him if he would marry us, and he had to gently. We knew nothing.
He's allowed to, isn't he?
No, he was not.
Oh, he was not?
And he had to come back to us and
You'd
say,
think he could.
He said,
Yeah.
like, I'm not that kind of judge.
Oh, I thought
was
they were all
so
allowed to do that.
embarrassed.
Yeah, you know
no.
what, Steve, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, no, thank you, guys.
Okay.
I feel better. And the Dubbining, like that was, oh man. Apart from covering actual Olympics, I don't think I've had an assignment that I loved more, because it was sports and philosophy and ethics and science and chemistry. It was a clinic in everything every day. And I had to leave the Dublin Inquiry to go to work at CBC Radio, and I literally cried, because I just thought, how am I leaving this? Anyway, went to the inside track, did it for 5 years, and at that point had done sports for almost 10 years, and I think I was feeling a bit restless. And this TV thing comes along.
Peter Herndorf called.
And I had left the inside track, because I thought, okay, I remember the epiphany was kind of, wow, I have nothing left to say about the Grey Cup. I'm empty. Not that I'd done it all, but I didn't feel that I could bring a lot of enthusiasm to it going on past the 10 years in sports and the 5 years at the track. And the TV thing just felt, I don't know, like exhilarating and weird enough. And I knew Steve at that point and loved him. So I thought, well, this could be kind of cool.
And despite knowing me, she wasn't dissuaded from going for the job.
You're stealing my line, Steve. Come on. Okay, quick aside before we come, but now we can do a deeper dive into the TVO, and I got a little clip and everything. But I got an email from Steve Paikin, and I did read it twice to make sure it's fit for public consumption, and it is. But Steve was saying, any show that mentions, again, this is an aside, any show that mentions Peter Kent, Trilby Kent, Scylla Kent, Peter Horndorf, and Steve Paikin has got to be worth listening to. You enjoy the Arthur Kent.
You had Peter Kent on.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm reading
just
your
the other
note
day.
and it says Arthur. Of course, I had Peter Kent on. This Scud Stud has not made his debut yet. But Peter Kent, you enjoyed that episode of Toronto Mike, Steve.
I did. Yeah, you just dropped. There's that word again. Just dropped, a few days ago. I think I
Friday.
I think I listened to it the day it dropped.
Wow.
Friday, and I will say I loved it too. We did 90 minutes, maybe closer to 100 minutes. Peter Kent, and he's got that great media career, and then he's got the political career, and I was fascinated. What a story that man can tell, and he's lived quite the life.
And Peter Kent was there.
And he was there. And you were surprised because at the very end, I asked him how old he is, which, is not a nice thing to say sometimes in this society. But I'm like, how old are you? And he said he's over 80. So there you go.
I don't think he said that.
Well, he said 4-score.
He said, I'm over 4
I did the
score.
math. Yeah. Only
yeah.
Peter Kent talks like
Did
that.
you, Mike, you just missed something there.
What did I miss?
Mary dropped some Yiddish on you there. You just missed that.
It was sotto voce. It was off mic.
I missed it. I remember I recorded with Mark Hebscher for 5 years, and he dropped Yiddish on the rig.
Yeah.
So I'm just used to it now in regular conversation. So I only brought up your nice note about the Peter Kent episode because we referenced Peter Herndorf again. And
Right.
When he passed away, of course, I talked to you, Steve, about him for the memorial episode of Toronto Mike that month.
Well, I guess Peter, in a very real way, brought Mary and me together because he had hired me in 1992 with a view eventually to doing a daily current affairs program on TVO, which had never been done before. And then once we started, Mary Hynes was brought in as well. So Peter sort of, we knew each other before, but Peter
and not
kept
Peter
us
Kent,
together.
Peter Herndorf.
Peter Herndorf.
Peter Herndorf. Yeah.
Hired us both.
Yeah. Wow.
And Mary was my first TV wife as a result.
Oh my God.
Okay, so
He
how
will
long
not
did you
cease.
two co-host together?
Two
years.
seasons, 2 years.
Right, 94 to 96, I suppose.
94 to 90. Math is hard. 94 to, yeah, 94 to 96.
Exactly.
That's right.
Nailed it. Okay.
We'll have to do a 30th,
Yeah, next year.
a big party. Yeah.
It's in my calendar.
Okay, cool.
Seriously, I wrote it
Yeah.
down already. Yeah, I'm going to organize it.
Lovely.
Okay, so now I'm going to play a clip of Mary Hynes at TVO.
Oh, beautiful.
It's just, it was hard to find, actually, but here's a little taste of how Mary sounded on TV Ontario.
You make the argument in Pale Blue Dot that it's time to hit the road
Carl
again,
Sagan.
skyward, as in space, travel, exploration, perhaps colonies, for the very salvation of the species. How is that?
Well, first off, as you suggest, we We are a wandering species. We come from hunter-gatherers. We are nomads. And for the million years that the human family has been around, that was our lifestyle. That must be built into us deeply. It's only the last 10,000 years that we've had a settled and sedentary existence. And now the Earth is all explored. Our exploratory instincts are unfulfilled. And I think many people, I recognize not all, but many people would long for real exploration of real new worlds, even vicariously. Secondly, while I don't for a moment suggest that the Earth is a disposable planet, it is nevertheless true that we humans are now a danger to ourselves. Our technology really can cause enormous insults on the environment that protects us, especially the atmosphere. And therefore, if we were concerned, had a prudent regard for the long-term well-being of our species, we would hedge our bets, or as conservatives like to say, we would diversify our portfolios. We would put self-sustaining human communities on many worlds, so if the worst happens, there would be an outpost of us somewhere else.
Isn't the danger in that thinking, though, that we come to regard the Earth as disposable? Well, we've fouled this nest, let's move on to the next.
It's a very good question. And by the way, even birds know not to foul their nests. How come we don't know that?
That's great.
But the argument you've just presented would be true if it were an either-or situation. But in fact, the cost of moving out into space, done over a reasonable timescale matching the technology, which is centuries, is tiny compared to the cost of making the environment of the Earth right. These are not competitive. We should do short-term and long-term things, both.
There's a little Mary Hynes on TV.
How fabulous is that, Mary, when Carl Sagan says to you, that's a really good question?
I will dine out on that forever. But that was all about him. What a gracious, generous man. I loved interviewing him.
And if we phone Mary now, that's her ringtone.
Yeah, I know, it
Carl
absolutely,
Sagan saying, what a great question, Mary.
It should be. If I could figure out how to set a ringtone, that's what it would be.
Wow. Okay, so Mary, bury me in some information. So what was it like alongside Steve Paikin for a couple of years? And then we'll need to find out why you eventually leave TVO.
You know, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Steve sent me the blooper reel a couple of weeks ago, which I hadn't watched in years.
You should have sent it to me. I would have played it.
Oh, we'll send it to you for
the sequel.
For the
I'll play it at TMLX 14.
It was exhilarating. It was exciting. It was something so new. I always felt that I was not quite dropping the ball, but it was really hard to work alongside such a natural. And I remember once someone did, I don't think I've ever said this to you, we had a guest on, an expert in introversion and extroversion. And in the green room before the show, we're doing the little quiz. And Steve, I remember the results. One of us is an off-the-chart extrovert. One of us turns out to be an off-the-chart introvert. I'm going to guess, let you guess who was who.
Perfect match.
And so for one of us, that was the dream job. And for the other one of us, it was, oh my God, like I'm going to be so on. I have to be on. I have to put my game face on. I have to go out and do this and be on. And it's really it's killing me. Certainly never said that to you.
Okay, we're getting real here.
Let's get real,
yeah.
Steve. You know where you are.
Steve, it seemed to come so naturally to you, and I found it really hard in a lot of ways.
I remember one night, and it wasn't that far, like if we went on the air in September, this might have been October. And I remember one night after a show, and we did the show back then live at 8 o'clock at night. So it's 9:10, 9:15. And you were in an edit suite, and you were sitting on the floor, and I think you were crying.
This rings a bell.
And I walked in, I said, Mayor, what's wrong? What's wrong? And you said, I'm not cut out for this. This is just not for me. 1 month in. And I always thought, and I told you, you're wrong. You're full of it. This is totally up your alley. You absolutely can do this. You said, I think at the time, I'm too introverted and I like the makeup and the lights and the cameras. I just don't like any of that. And I said, doesn't matter. You don't have to be an extrovert in order to be fabulous at this. And I don't think I was ever able to convince you how absolutely fabulous you were at it, even though you didn't think so. But you were, and talk about, all this business about a natural. That's just BS, Mary. Once you've done it 10,000 times, then, you can be a natural. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people say, oh, Steve, it's so natural for you. Yeah, I've done 30,000 interviews, so of course it looks like I'm a natural.
So then I'm selling you short by saying it came so easily to you. I'm selling you short by saying that.
He's so hard at this.
He's right.
You do have to work at it.
I am selling you short by saying that.
But I always thought you sold yourself short because you didn't see what we saw. And what we saw was somebody who may not have, who may have been introverted, but was still so damned good at it. And you were so damn good at it. And I remember when you left, I remember trying to think, I got to convince her to stay. I got to convince her she's wrong about this. Wow. I got to convince her that and Peter tried to get you to stay too.
We really should have talked.
No, we did talk. We did have all these conversations back in the day. And I remember talking to Peter Herndorf and he tried to get you to stay. But you made the right decision for you, I guess. It just never totally felt comfortable.
It's fun. I remember, because Steve is also a very social creature and social butterfly. Early in COVID, there was a Zoom reunion of the team, and there was. It was just
50
so,
people on
yeah,
that.
it was
big.
so, a lot of us had lost touch. It was so sweet to see everybody again and just to go around that. And we were all very isolated. It was early in COVID, right? And it was scary and it was isolating. And just to see all of those windows and people checking in and how are you? And oh, I miss you. And then in the little sidebar with the private chats and like, oh my God, I miss you so much. You look great. How are you? And I remember sending a note. I don't know if it was just to you or if it was a bit more widespread than that, saying, because Vodek, our amazing colleague Vodek, had said, we were so lucky, and I'm not sure we knew it at the time, because we had unprecedented freedom for a TV show to just get in there and do like pretty much whatever the hell we wanted. And that's not generally the way of the world in television.
No.
And I remember I heard that from Vodek, who is such a wise man. And I said, either to both of you or just you, I wish I could have done this job with these people in a more easygoing way. I agonized over every minute on camera, and I wish I could have done it with a light touch and a light heart. And you were so gracious, because you said something like, yeah, but then you wouldn't be doing Tapestry, and I like you there. So, you landed in the right place. But I did that reunion, that first reunion, because we've had a few. It just made me think, what would it have felt like if I could have been easier on myself, or if I could have thought, okay, some of this is a stretch for me because I don't like being on, and I'm never going to be as extroverted as you are. What if I could have just said, yeah, but shut up and do it? It would have been a different experience, I think.
Yeah, but
that might have been sustainable for me.
Sure, but you know what? You're phenomenal on the radio, and you can tell that you love being on the radio, and you've got that. Sorry, Mike, this is going to turn into mutual admiration here, but she deserves
I'm enjoying
it.
this.
You've got the personality, you've got the disposition, you've got the voice, you've got the curiosity, you've got the thoughtfulness, you've got the whole package when it comes to doing what you have been doing. And for whatever reason, you seem to prefer doing it on the radio than on television. And I thought that you brought all of what you bring in radio to the television screen as well, even if you didn't always see it that way.
That is just so beautiful to hear. I suspect I've always felt like a newspaper person, so radio has been a stretch for me. TV was just like, what's that saying? It's not a gold, a bridge too far. That's why he's the host. Radio still feels like a stretch to me. I feel like a print person. So radio feels like a bit of a stretch, and TV was just
Mary, you sound like you have imposter syndrome. Like you've been doing it and kicking ass at it for years. I mean, we were going to talk about the big announcement, which I know it's out there already. That's how I learned about it. But you've decided to retire from CBC. We haven't got you to CBC Radio, but you've decided to retire. I mean, Tapestry, it's December 31st is the season finale, and that's it for you.
That's it for me. And we've learned they're also canceling the show, so that's it for me.
You're irreplaceable.
Yeah. No, I'm not irreplaceable.
Well, apparently you are.
No, that's a... Yeah, that's a.
There can't be a Tapestry without Mary Hynes.
No, see, I don't buy that. I wish it were continuing. All of us on the team wish it were continuing, but we're not. We're not programmers.
All I know is they recently we had the retirement of the host of The Next Chapter, which is another show I quite love. But The Next Chapter, I heard it again this past weekend. It still exists, but for some reason, Tapestry is gonna be done at the end of the month.
Yeah,
interesting.
Tapestry's
so it's not a season finale; it's a series finale.
It's a series finale. So we're planning.
Is that out there, or is this the an exclusive?
That's just out there. Yeah, that's just in the last few days. That's out there.
Okay.
And we're doing a special live show, live to tape, that'll be on the air. New Year's Eve is a Sunday, so December 31st will be the big finale. Okay, so you leave TVO because you don't want to be on TV. Essentially, you feel more comfortable on the radio. And I'm 9 months pregnant.
And you're 9 months pregnant. Okay, so wait, let's get this right. So
that girl who would go on to wow you at my husband's goddamn funeral, excuse me, that was her.
Yeah,
Ella. Okay, so you can't, because regular people just take a maternity leave and then they come back to work, but you decided to take some more time. Please just give us the why do you leave TVO?
This is something else that's really interesting. Janice Stein, who is a goddess of the monk school, and at that time was with the Foreign Affairs panel, which you did every week. Janice and I would talk in the makeup room before that Foreign Affairs panel every time she was in. I loved her, and still do. We just have lost touch. And I remember we talked a lot about motherhood because at that point, I was pregnant for the first time. She had 2 kids. We liked each other a lot, and we felt comfortable having real conversations. And I said, I don't know. What if I'm not that maternal? Like, I just don't know. My mom is not that maternal. And what if I'm this, like, what if I just can't really, what if this doesn't work? Like, this is not like I need to leave television. This is, wow, I'm having a baby. My husband knows he lied about his age so he could become a Big Brother because he wasn't old enough for the Big Brothers organization. So when he was 17, he said he was 18, and his little brother was part of our wedding party. Like, it just, he knew.
Randy was very paternal. He had great paternal instincts.
He volunteered at a breakfast club for years and years and years, and I'm still in touch with one of the kids from the breakfast club, on the strength of how strong his friendship with Randy was. So Randy needed to be a dad, and if I was going to be married to Randy, I needed to be a mom. And I just kind of thought, okay, him, I'm sure. About me, I don't know. And Janice Stein, not only wise in the realm of foreign affairs, who knew, looked me in the eye and said, no, you're going to have the exact opposite phenomenon. You are going to drown in this so happily, we might never see you again. You are going to love being a mother so deeply and profoundly that we might never see you working again. And I thought, where's that coming from? Like, that's not my sense of it. And I never worked full time again. And for the first couple of years, I just stayed home completely without work. Like, I thought, nobody's ever going to hire me again because this gap is so long. But Janice was right. And I remember when Ella was tiny, just holding her once and feeling like, kind of for the first time in my life, oh, so this is why I'm here. Like, the depth of that purpose was so unexpected and so profound and so beautiful. Yeah,
we're both verklempt right now.
Well, no, because you're really such a papa, right? Because you were born to this. You're the same.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
That's beautiful. And from what I've heard in this hour, Ella's turned out to be an amazing human being, and Mary, you're a big part of that, of course.
Damn straight.
Steve and I have had this conversation because the lovely Marnie, your mom, I believe, if I'm quoting her correctly, said to you once she wasn't going to take any credit if you were successful, and she wasn't going to take any shit if you kind of, lost your way. Like, you can only claim so much as a parent, and they do come fully formed to a great. It's the great nature versus nurture. Who knows, right? But they do come fully formed in, like, they really come as who they are, right?
Yeah, but positive parenting doesn't hurt. Let's put it that way.
But I will say, for the first 15 years, she had Randy Starkman as a dad, so I can claim some, but I'm not even sure I'd claim half. From 15
The
onward,
dream team. Okay.
From 15 onward, it was my mission to,
Make sure she turned out okay.
Well, in the really early days, she said, "What are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna?" In the really early days, it was like she couldn't imagine how we carried on, and I just remember somehow, finding it and saying, "I promise you, we're gonna be okay. I promise you. We're going to get through this, and we're going to be okay."
You're more than okay.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, she's phenomenal. She's the one. She calls me Tiny Mama because I'm kind of a sensitive soul, and she's much tougher. So I'll be having this kind of conversation, or I'll be saying something to her about, I was watching this TV show and I cried. She'll just text back, "Oh, Tiny." So she, in many ways, has lapped me on the maturity and functioning in the world front.
So, Mary, how long did you stay home with Ella? So you talked about this gap, but tell me, like, how long is this gap, and then how do you get
He
this?
doesn't miss anything.
Radio
right?
gig?
You are good. You are really good.
Well, I'm listening.
The sublime Richard Azunian at TVO called me up. He was looking for a host for the book show Imprint, and Ella was, I think she was 3 then, and I thought, okay, maybe this is something I can manage if it's part-time, and maybe there's a way to figure this out, and so I did Imprint, and had done a series for one of the new all medical, all health short run series, and called Open Heart. I remember, because the idea was we were going to look at medicine from a humanistic point of view, and so I was working in little bits, and Imprint was a good way sort of back into the world, but again, it was like back into television, so it was thrown back into
Right.
I'd spent 3 years in overalls, and I remember once when Stephen Brunt was on the sports panel, he came in, it was just shortly after Studio 2 had launched, and we'd worked together at the Globe, and I used to, I was made up much more heavily than you were, right? Like, that was seen to be the way of the world.
Women usually are.
Yeah, which drove me crazy. But I'd had,
You have to decorate the eyes. We don't really do much to the eyes, right?
Correct.
And I had it on 4 inches thick, and I'd been to the hairdresser, and Stephen Brunt comes in to do the sports panel. He goes, "Hynes, you look amazing. Like, you didn't even brush your hair at the Globe." It wasn't, I don't think it was meant as an insult. I didn't take it as an insult, because I was like, yeah, nobody brushed their hair at the Globe. Like, you're just in there rough and tumble doing the thing. Yep. So Imprint was a bit, 1 foot back in that world.
And how long did you host Imprint for?
Was that 2 years or 3?
I think so, yeah.
2 years, maybe.
And it was a weekly show. So
it was a weekly show, yes.
Yeah, which made all the difference.
So very different pace.
Yeah.
And I'm always reading anyway. So, and Richard Azunian was a hoot to work for. So it was, we had some laughs.
Okay, now what brings you to CBC at some point you returned to CBC Radio?
Yeah, I felt that I had done what I could at Imprint. I didn't see it as a long-term thing. And it's funny, before Tapestry, the longest I'd spent in any job was 5 years.
Right.
And in some jobs, much less than that. And so this is 20 years for me, which I find, which is just not, like, I was never built that way for 20 years in a job, but I think losing Rand in 2012 kind of cemented, okay, I'm not ready to strike out into something different.
Well, you wanted stability.
I really needed stability.
Sense,
yeah. And also it's been the kind of show where it's sort of it can be a radically different thing from one week to the next, bit of philosophy, bit of psychology, bit of capital R religion, a bit of more, wide angle spiritual, but not religious. So the variety of it, I think, has been, it's kind of encouraged a long run.
20 years. Okay, so what, did you get like a phone call from an old boss at CBC or something? We're looking for a host? Like, how does that origin story?
They were looking for some guest hosts because a host had left and they were filling in for a while, guest hosts. And so they, Jennifer Maguire, who was a producer of mine in sports, was then, she was really moving up the ladder in management. So she was, I don't know if she was running English radio at that point or running current affairs. And she said, here's something. She was always looking out for me because she did not want me to stay home forever with a baby, which I think that also would have been fine. Like that also would have been a really cool path.
Except they don't stay babies forever.
Right. They go to Yale at some point.
Well done, Mike Boone. There you go.
All right. Yeah, so I guest hosted and I was really into it. And then but I did have to board for the job. And I had never really done a CBC board before because the inside track thing was so casual. And it was the head of the sports department calling me up and saying, hey, do you think you'd like this job? Which just was not the way it was done a few years later.
You should explain what a board is.
Right, because it's kind of like a firing squad. It's like
let's hear what I was going to ask.
So
what is this?
it can be anywhere from 3 to 7 managers and producers and HR people. And it's an exercise where they fire questions at you and you try to make the case for why you're the person for the job. Like it's as bad as live television, really. It's quite nerve-wracking. And it just, I don't know, it somehow...
and it's aggressive. Like they try to trip you up.
Yes,
They want to see what you're made of.
Wow. Like a firing squad.
Although, luckily enough, there were a couple of really friendly faces on this board, and Bernie Lucht was on it, the producer, the former retired producer of Ideas. And, when you look across the table at Bernie, you're seeing someone with a beaming smile, and you kind of feel like he has your back.
He'd be the exception, though. The rest of them didn't have your back.
Well, I
at least that was my experience.
There was someone from the news department there, and I thought it was game over when I said, I'm really drawn to stories that have no discernible news hook at all. And then she was, you could see she was visibly aggrieved. And I thought, well, to me, that's what a show like this can do. It's not tied to the news cycle, and you can do things like, what does it mean to be human? Which you're not going to see on
evergreen topics.
Thank you. Thank you,
them
Mike.
in 5 years, and they're still relevant.
Thank you. That's the way we've approached it anyway.
Timeless.
Timeless. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I, so Tapestry, you got the gig.
I got the gig.
I hear. Okay,
I got the gig.
You get the gig. I do want to hear a bit of how you're still on Tapestry because it sounds like we've got another month of Mary Hynes hosting Tapestry, but let's listen to this.
Our search for sacred ground. A sense of sacredness, a sense of mystery.
I do know that there's one place that is sacred to me. That's the house that my grandfather built when he came to Canada.
My whole being became very tranquil.
It has existed for centuries all over the world. It has inspired pilgrimages and poetry. It puts you in touch with something ancient, perhaps something holy. The poet Basho, writing in the 17th century, said, "What you find when you approach sacred ground is a glimpse of the underglimmer." Rudolf Otto knew the feeling well. The German theologian wrote about the mysterium tremendum in certain spots on earth. Otto believed some places are so set apart from everyday life, they fill you with blank wonder and astonishment. Sometimes they fill you with dread. This week, our search for sacred ground, where is it? What is it? Will take us to a wild spot on the St. Lawrence River.
And to our people in the past, it was a place of medicine, it was a place of ceremony, it was just a place of beauty that you would celebrate to even be here.
It will take us to a place where more than 1 million people, most of them Jews, perished in Poland.
The light bulb went off in my mind about, wow, we could dance at Auschwitz.
We'll hear stories from across the country about where sacred ground is for you. How do you know when you're there? Does it do something to you?
It evokes a feeling either of calmness or devotion or wholeness.
This is Tapestry, Sacred Ground, Part 2. I'm Mary Hynes.
A little taste of Mary Hynes.
See that? Okay, I repeat. Did you hear that voice, Mike? Okay, that's a voice that is empathetic, curious, thoughtful, intelligent, warm, welcoming. It's a unique voice. It's a unique voice because it combines a bunch of qualities that are rare. Most people on the radio, most people on television are any one of those things, right?
Right.
But to be all of those things together in one voice, that's really hard. And she has it.
You had offered me an octopus when I sat down. Can I have it?
Oh my God, yeah.
Is that up for grabs still?
So this is an octopus wants to fight, and what did you say about I know what you're doing. This is too hot in the kitchen, and you're like, we need to turn down the heat for a minute here. But you did say something about the octopus wants to fight when you in it.
Oh,
okay.
Now
So
that's
Mary
a pro.
Hynes is
She did it right in front of the microphone, eh?
She knew what she was doing.
Yeah,
So I'm not a beer drinker, and you happened to offer me the one beer I love and drink, and I've just made
Octopus Wants to Fight.
Octopus Wants to Fight from Great Lakes Brewery, and I'm a long time fan of Steve's dad, Larry Paikin. So I did some baking for Larry Paikin the other day, and it's Randy's famous beer bread, and Octopus is Octopus.
What were the odds? Like of all the beers in all the world,
beer of all the. I walk into this one
that was on the table.
It was on the table, and
I'm getting goosebumps here.
No, me too. So this was Randy's beer bread. I've made some for Larry. It's made with this beer, Octopus Wants to Fight. And now I'm sorry, I would never ordinarily drink A in front of a microphone and B during
well,
the day.
Well, you're not on CBC Radio,
intense.
Mary. You can get hammered on this program. Absolutely. Okay, so
I'm
Mary,
back. I love this program.
Wow. Okay. Now, hearing Steve say those very kind words, very true words,
just
too,
accurate. Yep.
There's a gravitas to your voice. This is, why is that voice leaving the radio waves? Like, why is it all coming to an end? Did you wake up one day and say, "That's it, 20 years, I'm out"?
No. Do you know something that was quite profound, and I love thinking of this. I adored my mother-in-law. This was Estelle Starkman, Randy's mom. We lost her last November, and in her last summer, I'd had a big chunk of that summer off, and I was getting ready to go back to work, and I used to call her every Sunday, and I said, "Estelle, I don't know what's wrong with me. I've had a great long break this summer, and now I'm going back to work on Monday, and I don't want to go back. I'm not ready to go back. And if I'm not recharged now, I will never be recharged. Like, I don't know what's wrong." And she said, "Mare," she always called me Mare, "don't take this the wrong way. You've been working a long time." She's 92 at this point, right? Canina horror. And I said, "Estelle, did you just give me permission to retire?" And she said, "Yes." And I thought about that over and over and over. And she was a very, very hard working woman her whole life. And I think on one level, I should not have needed permission to retire. I was a grown woman myself. And there was just something beautiful about that invitation. She was saying on some level, you've worked a lot, and 45 years is a long time to work. It's a long time to work in a field like this that can be, okay, it's not brain surgery. I wasn't an air traffic controller. I should not have felt as stressed out as I seemed to have been at many occasions. And my sister, who is fabulous, Denise is 5 years younger, but she beat me to retirement. She was with the Toronto Fire Department for years and years and years. Again, another one who says to me, "Oh, Tiny, you're such a sensitive soul." I'm surrounded by these amazing, tough women in my family. And Denise would say, "What about retirement?" She's loving retirement so much. She said, every day's a play date. It's like kind of like being in kindergarten again. I'm getting together with friends and doing crafts. And I'd say, but the work is still really interesting and I love my colleagues. And Denise would say, but I see what it takes out of you. And that was a touchy conversation because I think I didn't want that to show. I didn't want her feeling sorry for me. I didn't want to be making like, and I'd say to her, I'm not an air traffic controller. Why is it making me feel
taking the Mickey out of me? I think is the expression in the UK.
Well, no, taking the Mickey out of me would be like teasing me. Giving me the gears.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I think we're looking for sucking the life out of me. But I didn't want to be that. Okay. I didn't want to be that dramatic about it. But Denise nailed it. You know, she would see that it didn't leave enough left over for some of the things I want to start doing in a more. I want time to get better on the bass, and I want time to get better at speaking Italian. And I'm stuck in both of those passions. I'm not going to get much better at any one of them until I can have this like beautiful wide open space.
So you just
do that.
You just said I'm done. Like I'm retiring at the end of 2023.
Yeah, at the end of December.
And when did you make this decision? Like when did you make this final decision that you are tapping out?
It had since that conversation with Estelle, my mother-in-law, and since the repeated conversations with the fabulous Denise Hynes, it had been on my mind for a couple of years, and I made the decision just as the last season was ending.
Okay, well, firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
And it's nice to hear a story where somebody makes that decision on their own. You know what I mean? There's so many media people who come over and they get a tap on the shoulder and just like, okay, time is up. Let's talk about a package, and you can go learn Italian.
I'm grateful for leaving this way.
Okay, in 20 years.
When
did you find out though? When did you find out that they were actually going to shut down the program?
Not until this fall. Yeah, I think I had thought it would continue with another host.
Right, but
it's not, I don't get a vote.
Well, they couldn't find a voice with that weight to it.
I don't think that's it at all. I think when shows are reborn with new hosts, maybe new producers, however or with because we have a phenomenal team of producers, I think hosts go in exciting new directions. I don't think a host leaving is the end of the party.
No, typically it's not.
I've never been a manager. I don't know what constraints they work under. I don't know how those decisions are made. I wish it were continuing, but it's not my call.
Right, no, not your call. That's for sure. Now, do you want to shout out any of the team members on Tapestry as you wind things down?
I saw this as kind of a danger because I love my senior producer so much. I thought Rosie Fernandez, and I thought the danger is I'm going to be trying to do this when I'm 78 years old because I love working with Rosie so much. She emotional intelligence like I have certainly never seen in this business, and it's rare anywhere. She's just phenomenal. Arman Iqbali, who's much, much younger than I am, and it was the funniest thing because we'd often come up with the same story ideas from the same bizarre rando sources, and we couldn't be farther apart in terms of age and we're somehow on the same wavelength for so many kind of quirky ideas that we bring to the show. McKenna Hadley Burke is in Vancouver. She, as an intern with the show not that long ago, was winning these international awards as an intern. Like it doesn't happen, just such a gifted documentary maker. And the danger there is that the team is so, Aaron Knoll, who did the previous 5 years with the team as senior producer. The danger was I'm so fond of my colleagues and it's such a wonderful place to work that I had to kind of stop because I thought I could be doing this past the point where I really should be doing this. I'm going to sound 75 and not wanting to leave because my colleagues are so amazing.
You're like Jim Brown, right? Like it's like right, Steve? Like she's like Jim Brown. Like you're at the height of your powers.
No, you know
and you're
what?
Walk
Like
away.
I'm like Bruce Bochy. I don't know how deep I can get it. Can I say I'm like Bruce Bochy?
But he's still managing, right? Like,
Well, but he left for 3 years, and when he just won the world, this drives my colleagues nuts because I find a way to bring every conversation back to sports. This happens during Tapestry interviews. It drives them to distraction.
Right.
Bruce Bochy, when he retired from the Giants, and he was away for 3 years and like getting knee surgery, and he said, he really needed to be away from it. When he just won the World Series this fall, there was the trend in sports journalism in San Francisco was to say, and the Giants showed him the door. Can you believe the Giants gave him his walking papers? And he had to come out and say, I left on my own. Like I was ready to leave. I thought I was leaving for good. He was away for 3 years and then he missed the game. He wanted to manage again. The call comes from Texas, so he manages again. So I'm Bruce Bochy in the extent that I'm leaving due to my own volition, but I'm not Bruce Bochy. Well, I don't have a World Series ring
you're
and I'm
really-
not coming back in 3 years.
So really, you're actually Barry Sanders is who you are, right? So you've got many good years left in you, but you're like, I'm walking away.
Do you know who I am? I'm Chris Squire before he really learns how to play the bass. That's who I am.
Who's Chris Squire?
Do you know? You remember Yes?
Yeah.
The band Yes.
Yeah.
You know Yes?
I do.
So
Yeah.
Look how surprised Mary is that Steve knows Yes.
I've heard of them. Don't ask me to name a single song, but I've heard of them.
You know, there was a roundabout. The words will make you out and out and spend the day.
He only knows one, well, maybe two. We'll give him Tony Bennett and we'll give him Frank Sinatra.
It's actually a mark of respect that I'm surprised you know who Yes is, because Steve is such a fan of the great songbook. And when I think of you, I think of Tony. I sent Steve a condolence note when Tony Bennett died. So that's the only reason I'm surprised that you know who Yes is. Yeah. It's just so many of my heroes who are known in the bass world, but I don't think they get their due in the wider world, like outside the bass community.
Right.
So
you're true, because lead singer gets all the attention, and then the lead guitarist gets a lot of attention, right?
All the attention.
The bass players, the bass player and the drummer sort of.
Yes.
They're kind of underappreciated.
Paul McCartney got a lot of attention.
But Paul McCartney's also a lead singer.
There
he was a
are three
co-lead singer.
exceptions that prove the rule. If you're Geddy Lee, Sting, or Paul McCartney,
but
you
all
can
singers.
be the bass player and be front and center.
They're all lead singers. So
I mean,
it's
to
a
me,
little
part of the
different.
beauty of the bass is you're like you're not the host of the
introvert.
show.
You're the introvert.
You can hide.
Working with the drummer the whole time. Okay, Mary, congrats again on the retirement. I have a couple of gifts for you here. So I'm sure they'll have gifts for you at CBC Radio, but don't be so sure. Okay, so
You are too
tough
much.
Tough times.
You are too much.
There is a large frozen lasagna in my freezer right now, so that box is empty, but I'll fill it up before you leave. That is courtesy of Palma Pasta.
Thank you.
And it's phenomenal.
And it is phenomenal. Steve married an Italian. He can vouch for this.
Correct.
La
Absolutely.
Sposa. Absolutely.
Steve, do you want another one? You got room in that freezer for one more? Do you want one?
Mike, can you imagine my turning down a Palma Pasta from you?
Okay, I feel generous today. You're each getting a large frozen lasagna from
Eccellente,
Palma
signora.
Pasta.
So much.
Grazie mille.
And I
makes
hope you're
me
enjoying
so
the
happy.
Octopus Wants to Fight. I'll
I'm
send some
loving it.
home with you. I can't believe your one beer is here. Like that is, and Great Lakes
That's uncanny.
Brewery. That is pun intended. Absolutely. Okay, more gifts.
No, and that I've got beer bread here made with octopus.
It's using Randy's
ridiculous.
recipe, and that's going to Larry Paikin,
who
almost made his Toronto Mike debut this past Father's Day. We might have to. We'll figure that one out though. Okay. I have a wireless speaker for you. This is courtesy of Minute, but this is for Bluetooth connectivity. You can listen to Italian language lessons or whatever you want. It sounds amazing.
That's incredible.
Moneris is giving that to you, and you have one too, Steve.
Oh
you probably got one last time, right, Steve?
amazing.
I think I did, Mike. Yeah.
Okay, so that's courtesy of Moneris because you're going to use that to listen to Season 5 of Yes, We Are Open, which is an award-winning podcast from Moneris. Al Grego went to the Maritimes, he went to Newfoundland, and he speaks with small business owners, and he collects their inspiring stories, and then he shares them on this really cool podcast, Yes, We Are Open.
Who produces that podcast?
I actually don't produce that podcast.
You don't?
I know you're setting me up there.
I totally was, yeah.
It's self-produced in-house by Moneris. If they had outsourced, TMBS is here for them. But there is a podcast I produce that I'd like to tell you about, which is called the Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Mary, whether you already work with a trusted financial advisor or currently manage your own investment plans, the Advantaged Investor provides the engaging wealth management information you value as you pursue your most important goals. So subscribe to Yes, We Are Open, subscribe to the Advantaged Investor, and remember this website address. It is recyclemyelectronics.ca, because if you have old electronics, old cables, old phones, old devices, old tablets, don't throw them in the garbage. You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, find a place very close to you where you can drop them off, and they will be properly recycled, so the chemicals, they don't end up in our landfill. It's good for everybody. recyclemyelectronics.ca.
Here.
So Mary, that was amazing. We went through your entire professional life there. We got some of your personal life in there. We've learned you're retiring at the end of the year. Tapestry is coming to an end, December 31st, 2023. That's the series finale. So I'm coming back to you, but I'm actually going to go back to Steve Paikin for a minute because I have a few questions for him. So off the top, we learned that you're back to work, Steve.
Yeah.
11 weeks that strike went.
Correct.
That's an unprecedented 11-week strike for your union there, but you're back at it. But I did read that, I think 13 union members are choosing to leave TVO. They took these buyouts.
Yes.
So you've lost some good people on the team.
Also correct.
And one name, I was listening to Mary speak about this person because I've been reading about this gentleman, and I want to speak about him now with both of you. Vodek. Is it Zemberg? Schemberg.
Legend.
Totally.
So almost 46 years he was a producer at TVO. He's won, and I have the number here. I wonder if the number has changed, but 18%, so there's 74 members of your union, 18% took the buyout, Vodek being one of the most prominent for almost 46 years. Talk to me about Vodek.
Vodek Schemberg, I have to say was, I was going to say is, but was the intellectual foundation of the agenda. He's a guy who produces the biggest of the big ideas on the program. And
I would say genius. Am I overstating the case?
You're not overstating it.
Wow.
This is a guy who was born in communist Poland and as a teenager then moved to Sweden and eventually came to Canada. And he is just simply brilliant. He's a brilliant guy. And, he's 73 years old now. So it is, given the TVO is offering buyout packages to people who, have had enough or don't want to return or whatever.
Yeah.
It's sort of good timing for him to take a package and run. But God, I'm going to miss the hell out of him. I mean, he's just... Look at Vodek Schemberg introduced, and this will be a good thing for some people and a bad thing for others. He's the first person ever to put Jordan Peterson on television. Jordan Peterson was an unknown psychologist at the University of Toronto who was a lecturer there and had a sort of a popular course and had written one book, I think Maps of
Meaning.
Yeah, there you go, Maps of
Meaning,
which was his book, and Vodek put him on the air at TVO numerous times, and eventually he started to, gain a following. And Jordan is the most famous University of Toronto professor ever. With apologies to Marshall McLuhan, but I think he's been surpassed. I think McLuhan's been surpassed.
Northrop Frye? No.
Nor he didn't have social media, but there you go. I don't know. Anyway, so Vodek will be deeply, deeply missed. Along with
there are more. I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I'll prompt you for a couple of them, and then you can tell me if everyone I miss. But and I hope I get the again. I don't know how to say these names. I don't know how to read them. But Cara Stern. See, I had two options, and I chose the wrong one.
Yeah.
But she was. You tell me, she was a longtime producer at the Agenda.
Well, believe it or not, I've known Cara Stern since she was 5 years old. Through circumstances that don't matter. I've known her since she was a little kid, and she one day, I guess about, I don't even know how many years ago, I guess 10, 11, 12, something like that, said that she wanted to apply for an internship on the Agenda, and she was, was she at U of O or Carleton? Probably Carleton. She was doing journalism at Carleton, and she got an internship in the show, which turned into a job, and she was there, I think, 10 years producing on the Agenda. So, she's off as well.
Okay, and what about, again, I have a couple options to pronounce this. Let's see if I nail it this time. Sandra Gionis?
Wow, Mike, that one you got right. Well done.
I'm sweating over here.
Yes.
Sandra's leaving.
It could be Sandra.
Oh.
You remember her?
Of course
Yeah,
I
you
do.
do.
She
Okay.
was there 27 years.
Yeah, so she worked on Studio 2 as well, of course.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, again, 27 years, and it's just a good time for her. She's in her, I guess I can say this out loud, she's in her high 50s, and it's just, it's a good time for her to take a package and do something else in life. She has ideas for other things that she wants to do. She's, what do we call her? We call her the mother of interns because she ran the internship program on the agenda, and there are all sorts of young kids who came through the agenda over the last many, many years that she was running that internship program. And, those kids have gone on to do other things in life, and it all started with her.
Okay, so I've got more names, but let's hear from you, Steve. Anyone else you want to shout out? Is there anyone left on the agenda? Like, are you the last man? Is everybody
I'm the last guy out to turn out the light? No, you've put your finger on one of the realities, Mike, which is that I think about 3/4 of the agenda producers have left.
Like Harrison Lohman's gone?
Yep, he has gone.
3/4?
Something like that. Yeah,
'Cause that's wild.
Yeah. I guess they just hate me. They just don't want to work with me anymore.
That's not possible because they love you.
Well, how do I put this?
You're very easy to work with. You are very easy to work with.
Thank you for saying so. Look, I adore them all. We've worked, when you work on and Mary just explained this with her crew at Tapestry, when you work on a program for a long time with the same group of people, they become a second family to you. It's really true. But each of them has a different reason for wanting to take advantage of the opportunity to leave and go do something else. And I don't deny that part of the reason is that I have 1.5 years left on my contract, and they don't know what's going to happen after 1.5 years, and therefore they have the certainty of taking a package right now versus the uncertainty of seeing what Paikin's going to do in 1.5 years when his contract's up, or what TVO's going to do to Paikin in 1.5 years when the contract's up.
Because the fact is, Steve, you don't know what's going to happen in 18 months.
No, I don't. Well, I don't know what's going to happen when I walk out your front door after this is over. So never mind 18 months from now. So yeah.
Well, now it's a Tapestry episode.
That's right.
What can we really know?
How metaphysical is this getting?
Right.
So yeah. So
I'm just going to sit here and have my beer.
So everybody's made they've made decisions for different reasons, and therefore, a lot of people have been asking me, when's the agenda getting back on the air? And unfortunately, the answer I have to give them is, I don't really know, because we lost a lot of people and we got to staff up.
You have a human resource
But
challenge
it's
there.
an important show. It's such a good show.
Well, thanks for saying so. Yeah, I kind of like it.
People point to that show as the way a current affairs television program should be done.
Mary, 100%. And, there's a whole team behind you, of course. You're the face we see, and you do a great job, Steve. But if you lose 75% of the, Beyond Steve cast members here, you're going to need to reload.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is you can't
Do you want me to come on over and work with you on the agenda?
It'd be a pleasure.
That'd be
It'd
great.
be a pleasure. Yeah.
That'd be great.
You can't do a daily show with, hosting
I'm
three
standing by my
producers.
phone, Steve. I just want I'm going to see if it rings.
Keep waiting.
I'm going to stare at it. What were you saying there? Sorry.
No, you need a big, obviously you can't lose 3/4 of your team and go back on the air immediately with a daily show because you just don't have enough personnel to make that happen. So they got to figure all that out.
A couple more names I was reading about. Daniel Kitts.
Oh, Daniel Kitts. You worked with Daniel, didn't you?
No, I don't think
No?
so.
Okay. You're right. Yeah, I think Daniel's been there 20 years.
24
you would-
years, yeah.
Yeah, you would have just missed him, Mary. Daniel Kitts, again, is another one of these guys from Ottawa, and he started out as a young kid and might have been 23 years old, 22, something like that when he walked in the door. And here he is all these years later. He's a father of 2 girls, and he's just, I've watched him grow up. I've watched him turn from a little kid just out of journalism school into a young man, into a husband, into a father, into a great journalist. It's just kind of cool watching how all of these people have grown up over the years.
Mary Hynes, I heard you singing a Yes song a moment ago. Like what are your jams? Like I know Steve's jams. He's kicked them out with me. Like what do you listen to when you're?
So what do I listen to? I am classic rock girl, and I'm still not over Andy Frost. Has Andy Frost ever been on with you?
has absolutely been in the basement.
Has he really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My God.
We talked about Psychedelic Sunday.
Oh my God. Psychedelic Sunday. I maneuvered
Goal
to have
scored
him
by
on.
number 13, Matt Sundin.
Toronto goal.
Toronto goal scored by number 13.
Do you know, I
Matt Sundin.
maneuvered to have him on Tapestry once, and I think that was
How did you sell that?
Seriously,
Yeah.
right? We were doing a special called Soundtrack for the Soul, and it's what's the music that puts you in touch with something like larger than yourself. And I thought, well, but one of my colleagues, I think it was one of the guys from Quirks and Quarks, said, "Okay, that was shameless. like you have the host of Psychedelic Sunday on Tapestry. How did you sell that?"
That's skillful. That is skill.
But okay, you know how skillful Andy Frost is. He hit the post. We were the music that wraps up the segment, and he wove in Carole King's Tapestry album.
Oh, there we go. There
And
it comes.
nobody knows this, but I took the streetcar home from work after that interview. I was on cloud nine. It was like, oh my God, I've met Andy Frost in person. He's been on the show. I'm halfway home on the streetcar, and it was, oh shit, I drove today. I have to go back and get my car.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I was so starstruck and so in the zone. Not intimidated because he was such a gentleman and so friendly, but he's one of I have radio heroes.
Well, I want to hear more of that. But I
He's
will
one
tell
of
you,
them.
the first sign that you're dealing with a sweetheart is when they agree to come in my basement and talk to me, because the asshats won't do it. Like, so if you're a jerk or whatever, you're not going to do that. So your first sign somebody might be a decent person is when they say, "Yes, Mike, I'll come in your basement and answer your questions for 90 minutes." Like, that takes a certain sweetheart
And
to do that.
Andy said yes.
Andy said yes. Wow. Now,
Mike,
you
can I
know
jump
this.
in with something here?
Is it about Andy?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna my Andy fact quick. Of course, I know
Okay.
Mary knows this.
Shut
but-
up. We're
So I
talking
know-
about Andy
yeah.
Frost.
You do know, of course, Andy's son Morgan.
Yes.
I have a daughter named Morgan, by the way, but Andy's son Morgan is
Morgan Frost.
is an NHL player with your Philadelphia Flyers.
Absolutely.
I did not know that.
How did you not know that?
That is some weird.
You know what? He
wacky
only cares
stuff. I
about
did not know
baseball
that.
and CFL football. Okay,
Well,
Steve,
that's-
what were you going to say?
That's what I was going to get to. Thank you for the segue, because Mary and I bond not just over this little career that we've had together, but we both love baseball.
Oh no, but that's not a bond. We're at each other's throats over baseball.
Because he's a Red Sox fan.
Because I'm, but
Yankees.
she's worse.
Yankees.
That's even worse.
Yankees.
Actually, that is worse.
That is worse.
That's bad.
So-
That's worse.
So yes,
Get out of my basement,
Red
you
Sox.
fucking
for
back
me,
that lasagna.
wait. But,
Yankees for her.
but my National League team is the Giants. So can I stay?
But why? Because I've had this conversation, and Steve will tell you, when I was growing up, there were no Blue Jays, and that's actually a pretty damn good. So is it same with you, Mary, that the Blue Jays show up in '77? You had to adopt a team before that.
So I've already been singing the praises of Sport Magazine I think this is a quote of yours. I love this, and I think I heard it from you, Steve. The greatest team in history is the one you loved when you were 14 years old. That's you.
But music's
Close,
like
close.
that too, right?
No, it's that's a line from Ken Dryden. I asked Ken, what was the golden era of hockey? And he said, whatever you were watching when you were 12.
Oh, what a poet.
Yeah, that's a great line.
There's a lot of truth to that, because my
Wow.
favorite Blue Jay team is still the 1985 Blue Jays, and I was do the math on that. I was like 10 years old.
So it's formative, right?
And nothing,
it
it's something.
That's
in
the
the
team
music.
that lost
I mean,
a 3-1 lead.
that is the team that won, and the previous year it was a best of 5.
go.
He's like, he wants to
That's
remind me of,
amazing.
of course.
They had a 3.
No,
they were up
but
3-1
it's
over Kansas
profound.
City.
You're 10
Jim
years
Sundberg
old.
hit that bases loaded triple.
You're 10 years
Steve
old,
Stevenson.
and there's
Yeah.
something profound happening.
Yep,
You are in love with a team and a lineup.
But I'm about to play a song because I'm going to kick out a jam, if you will. But before I kick out this jam, I was just going to say about music too. I can tell you that when I really I will go back to the CDs I listened to when I was 16 years old, and I realized a lot of my favorite music is the music I fell in love with as a 16, 17-year-old. Like, it's like it implants in there.
Oh, yeah. Why am I in love with Todd Rundgren? Because
I know why. Because he produced Love Junk for The Pursuit of Happiness.
and he produced the New York Dolls and Meatloaf and all. But I love him. But I love
Bat out of hell.
him for Something Anything in 1972 and A Wizard, a True Star in 1973 and Todd, the double album in 1974. Because when you're that young and something moves you, whether it's your baseball team or your music, it's landing in your soul, right?
What's the one song you and I did at karaoke?
Oh, it was amazing.
Hello, It's Me.
It was Hello, It's Me.
Todd Rundgren.
It's me, of course. Great jam, yeah. So, Mary, one day once you get adapted to retirement and you're like, I miss microphones or whatever, if that moment comes or whatever.
Not going to happen.
But if you miss, maybe I miss lasagna or whatever. You're going to come back and kick out the jams with me. Steve's done this. It's a lot of fun. We play your 10 favorite songs of all time.
No.
And you tell us why you love the song. You can get some Todd Rundgren on there. You'll enjoy it. Think about it.
No. Think about it. No, like, can I have a date now? Okay, but no, Mike, do you know Squeeze?
Yeah, Tempted.
Well, Tempted and so much more.
But yes. There's more than that, but Tempted was the big hit.
But you know what? There are times over the course of baseball season, Mike, when I watch 155 Red Sox games. I may miss a few along the way. And Mary listens to. Yeah. She doesn't do TV. She does radio. She listens to
John Sterling and Susan Waldman
for the Yankee games.
And John Miller in San Francisco.
Yeah. So we often
we clash.
We send emails to each other from time to time.
And
about stuff.
You don't know about this yet.
What?
But the sublime Marnie Paikin, your mom.
Yeah.
I have written you a note about the sublime Marnie Paikin, whom you've just lost, and I'm so sorry. And the note to you includes my favorite Marnie Paikin memory, which is, she was.
Maybe I kick out my jam right now, and then we talk more about that.
Okay.
So here's my jam.
Put your dreams away for another day, and I will take their place in your heart, wishing on a star never got you far, and so it's time to make a new start when your dreams at night fade before you. Then I'll have the right to adore. Let your kiss confess this is happiness, darling, and put all your dreams away.
Steve, my sincere condolences to you on the passing of your mom, Marnie Paikin. I'm so sorry, man.
Well, I'm glad you're playing that song, and I'll tell you why that was my mom's favorite song. That song, of course, made famous by Frank Sinatra, and they played it at his funeral. That's the song they buried him to at his funeral. And it was written by a woman named Ruth Lowe, who's from Toronto, and was a friend of my mother's mother.
Really?
Yep. They both lived at Bathurst and Eglinton in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And Ruth Lowe and Shirley Sibulash, who was my mom's mom, they were pals. And Ruth's son, Tommy Sandler, who's one of the best photographers in town, and you'll see him at every big event, he and I are pals. And we talk about our wonderful mums and grandmoms. And anyway, yeah, that was, in fact, before coming over here, because you asked me, you said, what was your mom's favorite song? And I checked with my dad, and that's what came back.
Your first appearance on Toronto Mike, Steve, you told us all about Ruth Lowe, and I never forgot. That was the first #1 Billboard song of all time. That song she wrote,
You'll Never Walk Alone?
She was I'll Never Smile Again.
I'll Never Smile Again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was Frank's first #1 hit.
Wow.
I'll Never Smile Again.
Wow.
Right. Yep. Which is wild story.
And she whipped that song off quickly. Sinatra literally called her and said, I need a theme song for a TV show I'm doing next week. Write me a song, Ruthie.
That's beautiful.
And she went to the piano, and she apparently did it in one night.
Now Mary knows why I interrupted her story about Marnie there, but now you can come back to it.
No, I have said this in a card to you because, I mean, Marnie was so formidable, right? I'm thinking of your phrase, MFC, to describe, and I'm going to let you do the honors for that one because you will, and only you can do it justice. But I remember being in Marnie's presence. You and I had gone to a Yankees game and I don't call it Rogers Center, right?
Skydome.
I'm not like, thank you.
We call it Skydome on this show.
I'm not, I don't do that sponsorship, like corporate thing with ballparks. And I remember Marnie saying to me, "Oh, MH, you're such a lovely person. How can you be a member of the evil empire?" And knowing that I'm a Yankee fan. And I remember feeling, I've let Marnie down. Like, Marnie doesn't like me anymore because she thinks I'm with the evil empire. But what a glorious woman. What a glorious human being.
But on the other side of the coin, my father adores you and always calls you, remember that old TV show?
Mary Hartman.
So he always called Mary Hynes.
Always. I love Larry Paikin. You need to have Larry Paikin on.
We almost did it, right, Steve? I had a Zoom. I guess it was the day we talked about
we were going to do it
Horndorf. You were out of town, so we did a Zoom, and I got to meet your dad through Zoom or whatever, and we were going to do a Father's Day episode.
Let me refer to the story that Mary just referred to. We buried my mother yesterday, and it was it was a cold, miserable day outdoors, but I was just astonished at how many people showed up. We did it on a Monday afternoon at 1:00.
It was Marnie Paikin.
Yeah,
of course people are going to show up.
Anyway, I was just astonished. It was some people came a long way to be there, and it was really very delightful. But when my mom turned 49, my mom did a lot of stuff in life. She was a chair of governing council at University of Toronto. She was a chair of Atomic Energy of Canada. She was a board member of Southam. She was the chair of the Ontario Council on University
Bringing
Affairs.
Canadian brass.
Yes, she was the president of the Hamilton Philharmonic Orchestra that hired the Canadian brass. She was on boards of 3 different universities. Anyway, it's a long list of stuff that she did.
Amazing.
Yeah, she got stuff done. And on her 49th birthday, her 2 children, my brother and I, we chipped in and bought her vanity license plates. Were the new thing in Ontario at the time. So it was the first year, and we decided to pitch in and buy her a vanity license plate for her car, which read MFC 49 for her 49th birthday. And whenever people asked us, what does that MFC stand for on your mom's license plate? We would always say, Mother First Class. But in fact, it stood for Madam Fucking Chairman, which is what we used to call her. We used to call her that, because she was.
She was.
Yeah, she really was. I mean, I know Sinatra was the chairman of the board, but he obviously hadn't met Marnie Paikin.
Madam Fucking Chairman.
Who really was.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Again, sorry for your loss, but your mom also, I think she passed away on the Grey Cup Sunday, right?
She did. And today I am wearing actually a sweatshirt that was hers that she got because she was the co-chair of the 1996 Grey Cup that was in Hamilton. Wow. That was the one with the blizzard, Doug Flutie and the blizzard. And
I watched,
yeah. It was I think she probably arranged to have that blizzard come just to make the game even more memorable. But she was co-chair of the 96 Grey Cup, and she was co-chair of the 1972 Grey Cup welcoming committee that brought Pierre Trudeau to Hamilton at the time, and he came with Margaret, and I have a nice picture of Pierre and Margaret and Marnie all together. And she died on Grey Cup Sunday, and I think there's just something meant to be about that.
Were you conscious as a kid of having a superstar as a mother?
Absolutely. Yeah. She was different from all the other mums of my friends. She was just different. I won't say better or worse. She was just different. She was
Madam Fucking Chairman for one thing.
She was. And so, and as the years go on and you see your mother start to get honorary degrees from universities and then get the Order of Canada and then get, the Ontario Woman of the Year award from Bill Davis. And then you start to, who was premier in the 70s and 80s, I should hasten to add for your younger listeners, then you definitely start to realize that your mom is a little bit different from everybody else's mom. And, of course, she was my mom, so that made her different, too. Anyway, thanks.
How old was Marnie when she passed?
She was 87, which sounds like a good run, but the last few years of her life were pretty tough. So she really was not herself by the end. She got Parkinson's, and it's a hard thing to watch your hero waste away like that, because she certainly wasn't, in the end, the way I remember her. And I'm trying really hard, and people are giving me really good advice. They say, don't remember her at the end. Just remember her before the disease hit, and I'm trying hard to do that, and I think that's helpful.
And how is Larry holding up?
Larry turned 90 in August. And, you know, I got 4 kids, but they live in 4 different countries. So it's really hard to get everybody together. But it seemed to me a good occasion to get everybody together. So we all gathered in Hamilton and Toronto for my dad's birthday. And, you know, that was really wonderful having everybody together. And my dad next month would have been married to my mom for 67 years. And I think it's accurate to say that in all the, and of course they went out, they were University of Western Ontario students, you know, for probably a year and a half before that. So they probably spent almost 70 years together.
Wow.
And if they spent 14 days apart, you know, because he traveled on business or she traveled on business or something, over those almost 70 years, if they spent 14 days apart, I bet that'd be about it.
Wow.
Because she always, when he went away for business, she always went with when she went away on business, you know, for Atomic Energy of Canada or for University of Toronto or something, he always went with. So, you know, he's obviously had a long time to prepare for this moment, but it's still, I'm sure, going to be tough.
I just checked in on the live stream, and $5 Bill says he wants to know, and I got the answer earlier, but is the On Pauly podcast coming back? He wants.
It
to
is
know.
back.
Yeah, it is back.
Yeah, where our second episode drops today.
And then he also adds, I'm very sad to see both Mary Hynes and Sheila Rogers leave CBC Radio this year.
Yeah.
So, and then he said, an F-bomb from Paikin, what universe am I living in?
From Paikin and Hynes. It's awesome.
You got to come to Toronto, Mike, to hear these F-bombs.
That's the first time I've ever sworn on the radio.
Is that
Same,
right?
Ever.
Well, it's not the radio, so you still haven't sworn on the radio.
Podcasting.
No, but you're opening all these dangerous doors to us, Mike.
Well, good. Luckily for you two, we're winding down now, so you can't get into any more trouble. Just before I press record, remember I said I don't want to talk to you guys, and you guys, I think it was Steve who asked about the Brian Linehan picture.
Yeah, you have a picture.
And I was going to talk about the shirt I'm wearing, and then one more little thing to connect everything to Mary Hynes' beloved New York Yankees, of course. So Todd Rundgren produces.
Those words should never be used in the same sentence.
Shut up.
Beloved New York Yankees.
So Todd Rundgren produces Bat Out of Hell, big album for Meatloaf. Big jam on that is Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Of course, there's the baseball as a euphemism for sex. Phil Rizzuto.
Absolutely.
So
Janice Neal's favorite song.
You got the Yankees announcer Phil Rizzuto. Stop right there. I gotta know right now. It was like an opera. Like
it was like an opera.
And there's so many parts to it. Like there's like 6 unique different parts to it. I always loved it.
At the plate.
Oh,
Holy cow! I think
he's
gonna make it.
Holy cow! He's going to third. Holy cow! Love it. So shout out to the late great Phil Rizzuto. Okay, so to answer the question you asked before the recording, so the Brian Linehan picture is here because there's a great rock band out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. They're called the Watchmen, and I'm a big fan. And 3 out of the 4 members are FOTMs. I still got one more Joey Serlin to get there.
Hey, Mike, where's Brian Linehan from?
Hamilton.
Correct.
Woohoo!
Yeah, there's been a lot of because it's so they gave me that because they want me to know that Brian Linehan would be proud of me because I always I was always inspired by his research before he
because
talked to
you
a
do
guest.
so much homework.
I am the
he does.
yeah. So I'm trying to be
remarkable.
Brian Linehan over here. So
He
that's
would be proud of you.
that's great to hear. I met him once. I only met him once. I met him once because I would watch his show and he walked. It was like Bloor and Runnymede area. He was walking through a park and we said hi to each other. That was my Brian Linehan moment here. But quickly, we did a lot of shouts out to Ridley Funeral Home today, but there's a measuring tape for you, Mary,
Thank you.
Ridley Funeral Home, one for you as well.
Thank you, Mike.
Paikin. And
it's portable. I love this.
Oh, yes, finally. So TVO and CBC talked today, and this is appropriate because in the 1976, and this is episode 1376. So 1976, Mary, where were the Olympics?
Montreal.
Yes, in Montreal. So there was apparently, I met somebody who worked on the TVO broadcast side, and he tells me that in 1976 there was an alliance where TVO and CBC worked together in some regard with broadcasting the Olympics in Montreal, and they were given these shirts, and he got this very polyester shirt in 1976 for the occasion, and it sat in his closet, and then he kept, he discovered Toronto Mike, and he said, there's a guy who might actually want this shirt, and he gave me this shirt. And,
is this a 1976?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't even
CBC
wash
shirt?
it. Like I literally, this is where it goes in my closet.
Wow.
When I have somebody on who's very CBC-ish to me, I put it on. So
I'm honored.
Mac,
That is
you name it.
beautiful.
Dwight Drummond or Matt Galloway or Jill Deacon.
You know,
Wow.
I worked there too, you know.
I know,
Yeah,
but now
for
you're
years.
TVO. I don't have a TVO shirt. Okay, but so Mary,
We'll get you the Pokeroo head.
Steve is Pokeroo. Did you know that?
Randy was Pokeroo. He said it smells like the inside of a hockey bag that hasn't been washed in 40 years.
See,
Said it reeked.
we're closing with a mind blow here. But Mary Hynes, this is your Toronto Mike debut. You kicked ass, you took names, and now you're an FOTM.
Am I an FOTM?
Friend of Toronto Mike, absolutely.
Honored. Absolutely honored. Thank you, Mike.
And if Paikin plays his cards right, he might end up in the FOTM Hall of Fame.
Oh, working on it.
Whoa!
Working on it.
Because you know what? You brought me a couple of great guests in a row. You already thinking about who you're going to bring in next time?
Oh, I'm aspiring to be in your good books.
I like the idea of you dropping by once every few months or whatever, or a couple of months, with somebody that you bring on the show to make their debut.
Okay.
Like what you did with Mary here was fantastic. Mary Hynes on Toronto Mike, amazing.
Well, I love the fact that this is the first time Mary and I have been behind microphones in 27 years or something like that.
Oh, yeah, 27 years. I'm getting all
First time together.
Do you know what we should do?
What?
You know when you do your music, Toronto Mike?
Kick out the jams?
Kick out the jams. Do you ever do it in like a playoff format? Because, and I only ask, because Steve is team Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra. My...
Classic rock?
No. My question is, in a world that contained Johnny Mercer, how was Frank Sinatra known as the voice? I mean, if those aren't fighting words, right? I will bring you Johnny Mercer turn.
He wrote my favorite Frank song.
He was a genius.
One for my baby and one more for the road.
And he was the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe, which I can play on the bass. And it's not easy.
All right.
It sounds like a train. The bass is like the train chugging along the track. Oh, it's so beautiful. And Johnny, that voice. That voice.
I can't wait to kick out the jams of Mary Hynes. This is going to be amazing.
and Steve Paikin. We need to
he's
do
always invited. I
we
gave
need
him
to
a key.
do Johnny Mercer versus Frank Sinatra. It'll be epic.
Which reminds me of an episode we did, which was with Bruce Dobegin, which we did Frank Sinatra versus Tony Bennett. We did that episode.
Oh,
so you're on the same wave.
But I'd be Team Tony in that. Were you?
That was
Team
Bruce.
Frank in that?
Yes.
Yeah, I was Team Frank.
Tony? Over Tony Bennett?
It wasn't. He set it up as a versus. It really wasn't versus. It was really
Madunuzza Santa.
But I think most people
Okay.
in the Great Unwashed, most people would pick Frank over Tony. This is just because of the catalog
I'd be
and the
Tony.
legacy.
Well, you know who Frank's choice was? Frank said Tony had the best voice he'd ever heard.
Okay, can we just spare a moment for Johnny Mercer? Will you throw me a bone?
Johnny's not the same category. I'm sorry. He's just not.
Nobody should be. Okay, no, he should be.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll be back.
And
And the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe, here she comes.
I don't think this woman wants to retire. She just needs a different show. I feel like Mary doesn't want to retire. She's just done with Tapestry.
She wants to spin discs.
You know what? There's an opening at Indy 88. Josie Dye's moving on to Chum, and they need a new morning show host. It could be Mary Hynes. I'll make some calls after this. And that brings us to the end of our 1,376 show. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm at Toronto Mike. Steve Paikin is on Twitter. He's Spaikin, S. Paikin. Mary, is there anywhere on social media to follow you?
We've been instructed not to do anything on Twitter
anymore.
anymore.
Well, you're almost independent now.
Well, no, but since Elon Musk branded the CBC a tool of the state, we no longer work
What about
on
Instagram? There's a
Twitter.
different billionaire waiting for you over there.
I'm on Instagram personally, but for the Japanese fountain pen ink accounts. So that's
right on.
That's a separate thing entirely. And I call my daughter a rando. Who am I trying to kid?
Much love to all who made this Real Talk possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. That's Palma Pasta. That's Raymond James Canada. That's Moneris. That's Recycle My Electronics. And Ridley Funeral Home. See you. This is Tuesday. Let's find out who's coming up next. I should do this before, but let's see here. Real time. The next guest on Toronto Mike. Some guy named Dave Hodge.
No!
Yeah.
The top 100?
Top 100 of 2023.
Oh, I love Dave Hodge.
Well, he's our next guest. See you all then.
Rosie and